What's up, guys? This is American Shogun coming to you from the Temple of Iron once again. It is early in the AM and I am finishing up my workout. I actually just finished it up doing some low impact cardio, walking around the gym, specifically Total Fitness. But the main thing I want to talk about, or I guess two issues for this video, would be the situation in Virginia and of course the situation in Iran with Soleimani. I wanted to talk about this earlier, but I wanted to wait and kind of let the situation simmer down, see what's going to happen, which I'm glad I did, and in a weird way connect it to Virginia. Basically, to give a super quick rundown, which I feel like most people know about the situation with Soleimani. Maybe you don't, but obviously we took him out. There's been debate within different circles on was it constitutionally justified. Funny enough, the liberals and the media are taking that stance, which of course we know why. They try to do anything to oppose Trump. Any type of opposition they can mount, even if it's opposition against things that they historically for the past 10 years haven't cared about, which they certainly haven't cared about congressional approval for wars, as we saw with Obama and Bush, even going back further. But I'll just say out the gate that I actually do support what our military did in taking Soleimani out. A lot of people, this hasn't been talked about very much, but Hezbollah, which is actually funded by Iran, attacked us in December. That really didn't get talked about too much. Now, obviously, it's not like that's an official Quds Force or Soleimani attack. And the Quds Force is, of course, was Soleimani's kind of special ops military force, more part of the army of the revolution, the Revolutionary Guard in Iran, because they have you could say the formal or normal military, and then the Quds Force, the Revolutionary Guard, that's under the direct command of the Ayatollah. And it wouldn't surprise me if there were Quds Force members in the Hezbollah attacks, or if there are members of Hezbollah that are also officially part of the Quds Force. But that happened in December, so we had already been attacked by them. Some of our military bases in Iraq were attacked by Hezbollah. And that's exactly what happened with our embassy. It was attacked, which our embassy count as American soil. Any embassies we have count as American soil. And, Trump said, okay, Iranian-backed forces are going to attack us. We're going to do this to retaliate. And I historically have been against needless war, which I still am against needless war. And you could say I've been very against unconstitutional war. I do agree that Trump had the authority to make that attack, as he was reacting to an immediate threat against American soil, against America itself, the embassy. And not even that alone, not even counting or considering the bases that were attacked by Hezbollah in Iraq. I think Trump did what he was going to do. We took out Soleimani, and that was more or less the primary action. You could say the primary defensive action. I suppose if you really wanted to argue it, you could get into, you take out a top Iranian general who may have been influential in orchestrating some of these attacks. It'll prevent them, or it'll show them, hey, stop doing these. We can take out one of your top officials whenever we want to. But then the World War III meme started, all of the jokes and everything. I never believed it was going to lead to World War III at all. People tried to make parallels between World War I and this, which, if you're making that comparison, then the history is lost on you. I'm sorry, trying to compare Soleimani and the situation in Iran to what happened to spark off World War I, but that's besides the point. And of course now I waited a few days. Iran did their little retaliation, which honestly didn't amount to much, sending a few more missiles, taking down that civilian plane, which I think, the last I heard, I think it is accredited to them at this point. And they said, we're done. This is our retaliation. We're not going to do anything else, which is kind of funny. And then Trump is now saying, we're probably going to go with sanctions. That's probably going to be our main play against Iran. And you already have a lot of people trying to limit the War Powers Act, which I don't like the War Powers Act. And again, I don't think Trump wants to use this as a situation to go to war with Iran, ideally. I kind of wish that we would use it as fuel to leave Iraq, since Iraq officially said, hey, we don't want you here anymore. I really do wish we would just leave them and let them alone to blow themselves up, to be honest. But that's to quickly go over it. I think taking out Soleimani was justified. I'm glad we did it. He was historically proven to be a mass murderer. The Quds Force has been proven to be rapists, murderers, terrorizers of the Middle East. So I think the Middle East is better off with Soleimani dead, 100%. But there's been so much talk of going to war and trying to stop it. And again, if we are attacked, 100% we should defend ourselves. We should take out and officially declare war on whoever is doing it to us. If our soil is attacked, our president should be able to react immediately to defend American lives and our land. But the media has just taken this, again, like I mentioned earlier, as a chance to oppose Trump. And there's even been impeachment talk, saying that, this is another impeachable offense that he did this, and completely changing the conversation to what type of threat is Iran, what was the proper justification, to we just have to impeach Trump and we have to stop him, we have to try to limit his powers. So that's not surprising. But the main thing that I want conservatives to realize, one, and I'm glad I didn't see much of this talk. I didn't see we got to spread democracy to Iran arguments that we had for Iraq back when Bush was president. That's good. We don't need to fall into the trap of desiring to spread democracy to the Middle East, because if they clearly don't want it and we can't force it on them from the top down, or the idea of just the need to, I guess you could say, protect Israel. That was another big justification for the Iraq War, is, we got to make sure Israel is safe. And I'm glad that the talk has been focused on America, America first, with our safety and reacting to the threats of Iran. But we have a more important situation, and I was trying to think, what angle can I come at this from? And that's the basic angle of, I think the killing of Soleimani was justified, and I'm glad that it doesn't look like we're going to commit heavy forces and go to a major scale war with Iran. I don't think that'd be a good thing at all. But I want to say that the focus of conservatives really should shift back to Virginia, because again, that's all this talk of Iran and the Middle East and what needed to be done. And again, I would say what needed to be done was done, but we have a more pressing issue here at home, and that is the threat of our fellow countrymen in Virginia, their Second Amendment rights being stripped from them in a situation that could set a precedence for stripping historically Second Amendment supporting states of their rights. It's very scary. It's far more of a threat to the Republic and to our safety, an immediate threat, than anything happening in Iran, anything that Iran could do to us, and in terms of soil as being the continental United States, much more of a threat. And I actually think the media has been happy that so many people have been talking about this instead of Virginia, because it takes attention away from a topic that they already obviously are against the Second Amendment. It just takes away focus from more conservative, patriotic people and puts it on something, diverts the attention away. I think there's actually been talk of not allowing the Virginians to carry and bear arms in their state house, because again, they are a state that allows that, but there's been talk of them trying to bar them from doing that. There's still articles coming out about it. I recently read one, which I'll actually put a link to it below. It was one against the Second Amendment supporters, the pro-gun supporters, basically citing the court case, or the Supreme Court case involving the District of Columbia, I think, versus Heller is the name of it. I'll post a link to that, the specific court case, in the description of the video. But they basically, it said that people can own firearms in their house for protection, but it also sets some stipulations on the ability of the government to regulate some aspects of firearms in terms of how they're carried and what types. And they tried to cite the intent of the founders. They basically said, well, the founders never intended for us to have the specific guns we have now, which, if you apply that logic to the First Amendment, the internet shouldn't be, nothing on the internet should be protected by the First Amendment, because the founding fathers certainly didn't envision anything like the internet ever existing, ever. Or let's just take something like pornography. The founding fathers would have probably never believed that the pornography industry would be able to exist as it does today. They would say, no, that's not freedom of speech, that's degeneracy. Anyone, doing these things needs to be executed. I could definitely see that. But that, I'm not trying to argue for that. Those, freedom of speech on the internet or the porn industry, one way or the other. I'm just simply saying, if you use the same logic in the District of Columbia versus Heller and you apply it to the First Amendment, it doesn't work. You would have to amend the Constitution rather than just interpreting it, doing basically activist interpretation, which I feel they did with the Second Amendment. And then there's other articles kind of saying that Northam's requests or his vision for taking away guns in Virginia is unrealistic, basically saying that it's not something that's going to occur, that he's barking up the wrong tree. And again, with how Virginia is, I do think it's, practically speaking, going to be a very difficult law, or it's not just one law, the various regulations they want to put on firearms in the Second Amendment. I don't think it's a realistic goal to try to impose on an entire state that historically has been very Second Amendment friendly. But they're moving forward with it. He hasn't relented. The Democrats in Virginia haven't relented at all. They haven't given any indication that they're going to go back on what they're trying to do. So again, the attention of conservatives in America needs to shift back to Virginia. I would say, and again, this statement may not age well, but I honestly believe the situation in Iran has more or less been resolved. The chunk of it, the hot stuff that's going to happen has already happened. Now, I could be wrong on that, but again, I would say that leftists in our government are far more of a threat to us directly here at home than anything Iran can do to us here at home. Not to say they aren't a threat. Again, I support Soleimani being taken out, but we can't lose sight of the America First narrative. We can't lose sight of putting our liberties, our traditions, and our freedoms at the forefront, because that's what the Trump administration itself is about. His presidency has been marked by a clear desire to put America first. Not to say I've agreed with everything that Trump's done, but The America First narrative, I think, has remained, and we need to try to keep driving that narrative home. And what better way, what better time than now to stand up with Virginia? Now, again, who knows how this is going to exactly shape up to, what's going to happen. But it's true, to go to war, Congress would need to vote on it. That's 100% true. Trump dealt with an imminent threat to American soil, an attack on American soil, in the way that he deemed necessary. He is the commander-in-chief. When it comes to acting in that role, he has the authority to do things like this. Now, if he just tried to initiate an all-out war against Iran, I'll agree. Congress would need to vote on it. We haven't really done that. I don't believe we've done that since the Korean War, so it's probably not going to start now. But I just hope and pray that, again, the main bulk of what's going to happen with Iran has already concluded, and it'll more or less just be sanctions against Iran through us and maybe other forces like NATO, or probably would come from us. That's really it, guys. Just keep America first. Stay vigilant.